everybody, and welcome back to Blue Jays Today. We're your boys. We always got something to say about the Toronto Blue Jays. I'm your host, Adam Peddle.
And I'm your host, Nicholas Playlog. And my goodness gracious, these Toronto Blue Jays are sending a clear message right now to the entire MLB. We are not sellers. We are a threat, and we will, in fact, be buying come trade deadline. Let's kick things off by immediately looking at yesterday's box score, folks, because holy crap, what a ball game. Toronto Blue Jays were looking like they were going to win that ball game for roughly like 8 innings. And then the bottom of the 8th rolls around. Yariel Rodriguez, who has been phenomenal for a large part of the season, does blink, does give up a couple runs right there. Blue Jays are down, but this Blue Jays team, this 2025 Blue Jays team, they're never out of it.
They never are, and you get contributions from guys that you don't expect. Jonathan Clase with a clutch home run to tie it in the bottom of the 9th. That was special. And then you go to the top of the 10th, and you have Alejandro Kirk coming up with his 4th hit of the game, the clutch double to take the lead, and the Blue Jays shut it down with Jeff Hoffman looking very filthy in the 9th. It's good to see, man. That is our now 20th comeback win of the season, if you could believe it. And I saw a stat this morning. We had 25 comeback wins just last year alone. It's June 10th, and they already have 20. That shows the resilience of this Blue Jays team and why they're built different, Nick.
Well, speaking of 20 wins, not 20 comeback wins, but 20 wins in general, since May 8th, everybody, the Toronto Blue Jays currently have the best record in all of MLB at 20 wins and 10 losses. That's better than the Dodgers, better than the Yankees, better than the Detroit Tigers, right? Better than all those other MLB juggernauts. The Toronto Blue Jays right now are quietly getting it done. Like, you could make the argument, we have been the best team in baseball in the past month of time.
We 100% have been, too, and you can look at the stats that back it up as well. Ever since that May 8th date, you can see, yes, 20 and 10, that's first in baseball. Extra base hits, remember that whole power conversation in April and March? That's no longer an issue because we're first in extra base hits with 100 in that stretch. Strikeout percentage, that's the lowest in baseball at 16.2%. Walks percentage, that's second. And then you got this beautiful stat. Remember this conversation as well. This was a big one last year. Even in 2023, we were talking about this, how we could not hit with runners in scoring position. No longer is that the case, as we are first in baseball at 313 over the last 30 games. And that overall leads the Blue Jays to be 5th total in the season, so they have really brought up their numbers, and runners scoring position, not an issue anymore.
Well, and that's the thing, right? We got to keep in mind, like, they're 5th on the season, but like that's with that first month of baseball being really lackluster. Right. And, you know, like, this team right now, it is wildly different than the team that we saw on, you know, April 10th or what have you, right? Like, that offense, there were problems. There was questions. And I was worried about the extra base hits. And I was worried about the fact that they were not, you know, similarly to 2024, not coming up clutch in the big moments. Recently, though, and like May 8th is kind of the date. Since then, it's been like every time you see a clutch moment, you know, a clutch opportunity, that kind of like the X factor moment for, you know, said player, the Toronto Blue Jays are coming up clutch.
Yeah, and you wonder why that's happening, because they brought in David Popkins, the hitting coach, earlier in spring, in the offseason, and then, you know, earlier in the season, people were starting to doubt, like, well, why isn't this working? You know, the whole philosophy is like, we want to hit the ball hard, we want to be aggressive, and then you didn't really see that happening until May. Could it be a factor? It just takes some time to people to buy into the philosophy and for it to actually show, you know, the fruits of the labor? Maybe, you know, or it could just be that they're getting used to seeing regular everyday pitching, and now you're starting to see guys like Addison Barger break out, and guys like George Springer being hot, and Alejandro Kirk and Bashette. Maybe. I think it's a factor of everything right now. They're finally starting to roll with this new team philosophy.
Well, let's bring up Alejandro Kirk, because you just said his name, and oh my goodness, we've got to give this guy a little bit of love. Any haters for Alejandro Kirk right now? You got to rethink things, dude.
They're silent. I haven't seen one in a long time, bro.
Because what could you possibly hate on? You're talking about a guy right now that's batting .316. And, you know, comparatively speaking to the rest of MLB, that is in the top 10, all right? You got all of these MVP candidates, and then Alejandro fucking Kirk right up there with them. Like, what he is doing this season, I am just so overjoyed, so thrilled, because I've been in this guy's camp like since day one. I've never wavered one time. And the fact that he is doing this and just like shoving it in everyone's face and going, look, I can be the guy. I can be the solo catcher, because that was the whole conversation. Can Kirk handle the load without Danny Jansen? Can he deal with it? Not only is he handling that load... Pause.
He's handling that load.
But like he is thriving right now.
Absolutely, man. And what's beautiful about Alejandro Kirk is he's just 26 years old. We all kind of forget how young he still is, right? Same age as Vladimir Guerrero Jr. And that signing that Ross Atkins did, that sneaky signing right before the season when they signed him down for 5 years, $58 million total. That is chump change for the production you're getting from him from the bat and the defensive side of things. I make a joke where Alejandro Kirk is a better defender than Bobby Witt Jr. technically right now in terms of fielding run value, and he's also a better he also hits the ball harder than Aaron Judge right now. That is also technically true if you look at the hard hit percentage.
Yeah.
So Alejandro Kirk getting paid just over $10 million a year for what will be his prime is a freaking steal.
100%. Yeah, like that. Those are the type of contracts that I hope we are going to look back on in 3-4 years and go like, how did you sign this?
Right.
Exactly. How did we get that lucky to get you on this deal? Because the production that we're seeing from him is insane. We also need to give a quick shout out here to Bashette, because speaking of runners in scoring position, speaking about how the Toronto Blue Jays are first in all of baseball, you don't typically expect your leadoff guy to be put in those situations a lot, because you would expect your leadoff guy to be the one getting batted in. But Bashette, when he is in those situations, he's going nuclear. He's fourth in all of baseball right now whenever a runner is in scoring position. That's right up there with Aaron Judge, Will Smith of the Dodgers, Byron Buxton. Like, Bashette is doing his job, phenomenally right now. And I think all of this ties in with, kind of the through line of what we wanted to say here on this podcast, which is every single conversation from those outside beat reporters, from those outside analysts over there and, in the United States and what have you. Every single one of them talking about how, well, maybe their team could trade for Bo, or their team could trade for Gosman, for instance, which is in this article right here from the Houston Astros. It's just fucking ridiculous, because there is no way in hell this Toronto Blue Jays team is going to be selling off any of these pieces. Whoa, time for a quick shout out to the sponsor of this video. Hit your picks and knock it out of the park with Betway. Scan the QR code down below to join the action. Only available in Ontario. Must be 19 years of older to participate. Please play responsibly. Now, everyone, back to the content.
No, the Blue Jays are contenders, and they're not pretenders this season. They're legit, right? And I think that last month proves it. And looking at the standings, right? Like, these guys are absolutely right there in the race. They're right now tied for the first wild card. And I think those conversations that you're seeing out there about Bashette getting traded, and even maybe interior conversations amongst your friends that are Blue Jay fans, if they're saying, well, we got to trade Bo, blah, 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 that's got to stop right now, because the Blue Jays and Ross Atkins will not let that happen. They will not trade Bashette. They're going to compete at the deadline, because you're looking at the odds too.
Yeah.
The odds have been skyrocketing ever since May 25th, May 27th. We are now up to that over 50% mark, ladies and gentlemen. The Blue Jays are here. They're going to compete. And based on the way they're playing, I hope that percentage gets even higher as we get further into June.
Yeah, and we do need to be clear. It is still June 10th. There's still lots of baseball left. I mean, that you might see a terrible month where that thing, drops like a stone. But right now, things are looking good for this Blue Jays squad. And anybody that says, yeah, we got to trade Bo, we got to trade these guys, just show them this video, because they do not know what they're talking about.
Absolutely. Guys, let us know your thoughts in the comments down below about the Toronto Blue Jays. Hit that like button, smash that subscribe button. $4 a month to become a YouTube member. Shout out and thank you to all of our current YouTube members. You guys are awesome.
Thank you so much for watching, everybody. And as always,
go Jays, go!